Hi, good morning, everyone. I hope everybody is all right in this morning. Um, Come on, guys. It's nobody saying late, OP. Come on, I believe in you. I think you can do it. Come on, friends. I believe in you, friends. You can do it. You can say late, OP. Come on, friends. This is not right. Anyway, welcome to the stream today. I'm very excited about today's stream. In case you're not aware of the purpose of today's stream is it's all about authors. Today's authors corner on the stream. We have three terrific authors. It's going to be a very nice conversation about writing and all sorts of stuff. So get your questions about authoring. Authoring is a word. Shantanu Kapila says late OP, new background OP. That's right, Shantanu, new background OP. See, this is a person who sticks to the theme. Pratik Barmuk, good morning, Pant. Good morning to you. Whether he Vihari, who's a member, says Sorabh is here finally, and she tries this emoji. It's all good. I appreciate all of it. Kajol Agarwal, background change OP. Akshay K, hi Sorabh to you as well, who's also a member. Upama Rai says late OP. Arre, that's extra only. It was only one late. It was like 4 minutes late. Let me explain the new location. This is the place. I mean, I didn't have a chance to clean up everything behind me, but this is where I prefer shooting. But because I have children in my house, I can't shoot in this place. But for one day, my children are in my parents' house. So, yeah. Vishal 99, why so early? Because one of our guests is in America time, and America is late timings. So yeah, Matthew Rosaria says cycle OP. Thank you. That is my personal cycle. I cycle it all the time, up and down the stairs. That's how much ambition I have. Small cycle OP. This is getting ridiculous. Manava Avasti says big fan of the location. You stop commenting, okay? Whoever you are, Manava Avasti. Finally, no more open cupboard. People's priorities on this chat are great, man. I can open the shoe cupboard for you. You can see my shoes if you want. Vamsi Krishna, did you manage to get a workout in before today's early session? No, man. My kids are not in my house. I slept like a person for a change. We'll talk about all of this. Okay. So I'm going to tell you guys, if you guys are just tuning in for the first time to the show, again, three authors. We're going to have a conversation in the chat and do questions with them. And if you have any questions, I will try and take them from the chat itself. And again, you can keep this. I'll tell you what's happening on Saturday. This Saturday, I'm doing a AMA solo by myself because I think thousands of millions and trillions of people have asked for that. So on this Saturday, I am doing a AMA solo. Maybe I'll bring some of you on. I'll figure it out. But yeah, it's a AMA. So any questions that you have, we'll do it on Saturday. Sunday is a holiday because I'm just exhausted with the existence currently. So this is 67 episodes, dude. 67 back-to-back episodes. So I'm just taking a break on Sunday, and Tuesday we have the IPL. Can we say IPL still? Tuesday we have the IPL this thing sort of discussion, which is going to be with Sonali Thakkar, Akash Mehta, and Siddharth Dudeja. And then next Saturday we have JB Koye and somebody on Thursday. I've forgotten who. So that's about it. I'm going to introduce Vedika Sharma's Palace of Illusions OP. That's cool, man. That's cool. Yeah, totally agree. Yeah. Okay, I'll bring on one of each of my panelists one by one. Okay, first of all, want to introduce you guys to the most esteemed panelists on this panel. Just one of the written books that have sold millions and millions of copies, esteemed by Nobel laureates across the country and the world. I mean, this person needs no introduction. Of course, talking about myself. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Saurabh, for that beautiful introduction. It's really nice of you to say the truth right up top. You have written three books. It's really, you're a tremendous person, Saurabh. No, thank you, Saurabh. No, please. I'm having a breakdown in the morning. Okay, my first panelist also coincidentally happens to share my parents. This person has tried to usurp my parents. Okay, she's written. I'll tell you. I'll read the books. One and a Half Wife in 2012. How to Get Published in 2019, which is a book about how to get published in India. Feminist Rani 2018. Happy Birthday and Other Stories 2013. And also Trouble with Women, which is on the what app is it called? Anyway, please give it up for my sister and my brother from her sister. It's a Meghna Pant. Hi, Meghna Pant.
So can I just reveal right now, upstart, that the reason Saurabh's looking so happy is because he tried to dump his kids on me. And I, in turn, being the smarter sibling, dumped my kids and his kids onto our parents. My parents live 3 floors below me. So that's why we're both like able to do this today and looking like we're not having a meltdown, losing our minds completely.
As I've already clarified, I dumped my kids with my parents, and Meghna is accepting responsibility for absolutely no reason.
When he
She's just
dumps
trying
them
to
with his parents,
appear.
that means I have to take care of them.
You don't have to take care. You just have to take care of my parents. Okay, so you take care
So
of
it's like taking
our
care of
parents.
6 kids, basically.
Yeah, including our father, who is actually, yeah. All
Let's
right,
keep insulting them since they can't defend themselves.
I'm gonna introduce our next panelist. This is okay. I gotta ask him about this, okay? Because his Wikipedia entry still says Flipkart's a resident bibliophile. Okay. By the way, I gotta say this, that our next panelist and Meghna devour books to a level. I mean, I thought Meghna read a lot, and then I met this person. Okay, he's also an author. He's written a book called "So Now You Know," a memoir of growing up gay in India. Please give it up for Mr. Vivek Tejuja. Hi, Vivek. Hi, Vivek.
Hello, hello. Flipkart, it still says Flipkart, huh? I
It
mean,
says Flipkart's resident bibliophile.
you
That's a
know,
nice
they
intro, Vivek.
they created a position for me there when I started working for them called customer engagement manager, and there was no customer engagement at all.
I can't see you with customer engagement at all. I think bibliophile is more you.
Yeah, but Saurabh forgets to mention that there are 4 authors on this in this conversation. There is
Yeah.
Saurabh Pant also, who's written 3 books.
Yeah,
Yes,
and fourth is on
there's
the
No, he was
way.
busy praising himself. Don't
no,
worry.
no.
Up top.
We must we must mention and acknowledge that there's Pawan, there is Wednesday Soul, and there is Under Delhi. Under Delhi.
Yeah, under Delhi. Yeah.
There you go. So
Thanks,
yeah,
Nancy. This is why Vivek is one of India's Flipkart's leading bibliophile.
Customer
resident
engagement ticket.
resident bibliophile.
All right, let's bring on our third guest. I mean, bestseller, just some of the most legendary books in Indian writing. She's written Mistress of Spices, Sister of My Heart, The Palace of Illusions, and of course, 2018 and 19's Forest of Enchantments. Please give it up for Chitra Banerjee. Yeah, yes.
Hi, everybody. It's such a pleasure to join all of you.
Thank you so much for joining us, Chitra. How's it going? I have to ask. Sorry, I have to keep up with tradition and ask all my panelists the very important question. This goes out to all of you, and it's a very serious question, so please take it seriously. I want to know, where's Salman Khan? Meghna Pant, where's Salman Khan? Vivek Tejuja, where's Salman Khan? Chitra Banerjee, Diva Karuni, where's Salman Khan? We must know. Please tell us where's Salman Khan.
I refuse to talk about this topic anymore. I got told very badly yesterday, last week. So I'm keeping it on the down low. No current affairs for me.
She is very wise. I'm following her lead.
Listen, I'm just very happy that the shooting for Big Boss is going to happen, because that's just terrible content to consume, and I love terrible content. So what can I say?
So the only time I watched Big Boss was when I was delivering my baby in January this year. And there was nothing else on that hospital TV. So I was watching Big Boss, and I swear I got into labor because of that. Because it was just so toxic. And I don't know, what is that show?
It's
So
terrible.
I went into labor like listening to Big Boss, and I'm very scared of the long-term effects it's going to have on my little baby. So,
Well, I mean, if you've watched a lot of Big Boss, then your baby will refuse to come out because they don't want to get eliminated.
I've been out for 8 months now. So maybe she'll be the youngest Big Boss contestant.
Yeah, I spoke to the number of people I've spoken to who enjoy Big Boss. It comes down to the same thing, which is that it just makes your life feel great. That's the recurring theme.
That's true. Can I tell Chitra how this conversation has happened, by the way?
Yes, please.
So
Yes,
Chitra
tell me.
Saurav was, this is his 67th episode, and he was asking me, so Meghna, who's the one author who really inspires you, who you want on this show? Because Saurav was asking me like which authors to invite and all that. And the first name, without even a thought, was your name. I said, please get Chitra, to come on board, because obviously I'm like, you're one of your biggest fans, you know that. And
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
so we are very excited to just finally have you, and you've been so inspiring, I think, to especially female writers like myself, because I think your characters, showing them as strong but flawed and insecure and essentially so humane. I think that's for the last 25, 20 years that I've been reading your books. You've just stayed with me in my own path as a as a writer in my career path, especially a female writer. So thank you for all the
Thank you
amazing
so
work you've
much.
done and the body of work you've created. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much. It's special to hear that because, as you know, being a writer, we write by ourselves in our homes at our writing desks, and you never know how your work is going to, if it's ever going to touch anybody's life. So
Yeah,
it means a lot hearing that, especially from you as a writer yourself.
absolutely. And
So I have a
even
question for all of you, in fact, which is and this is, I mean, this is a two-part question. What is the sort of feedback that you've gotten on any of your books where you're like, thank you so much, that really made my day, and then consequently, what's the worst? Let's start with Chitra.
Why? I think Vivek hasn't said anything yet.
No. I think we'll start with you, and then it'll go to Meghna, and then me. We'll go alphabetically.
Well, okay, all right. So I think one of the best things that I've heard, and I've heard this a couple of times, and this is in dealing with Palace of Illusions and Forest of Enchantments, which have ended up, I think, being my most popular books in India, which I'm very happy about because both of those books required a lot of research on the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. And I really thought about the character of Draupadi and the character of Sita. And I think one of the best compliments that I received is one lady, a lady wrote to me and she said, this is a book that 3 generations of us are reading in our home. My mother is reading it, I am reading it, and my son is reading it. And so it was very nice to see that the book was crossing gender and crossing generations. And she said, we have very heated discussions about it, which is wonderful because that means they're engaging with the book and the characters. So I think that was one of my favorite comments. Yeah. And I think one of my worst comments was this was for my book, One Amazing Thing, which is it's a novel which has a very cryptic ending. It's a novel that, you can interpret the ending in one of two ways. So this person writes to me and says, and because I have a website, everyone knows how to get hold of me. So they write to me and they say, I really enjoyed your novel, One Amazing Thing. However, I think my copy is missing the last page. Can you please email the last page to me? Because I want to know what happens to those characters at the
oh
end.
my God. That's funny.
So
Meghna, you want to go?
uh, I mean, for me, I actually want to talk about Chitra because I'm very excited. Sorry, please, I'm not going to curb my enthusiasm here. But my favorite book of yours has also been Palace of Illusion. And I remember this, that one of the main reasons, I mean, I've read Sister of My Heart and, the other works as well. But that scene of the Vastraharan where, stole through, Mahabharata is told through Draupadi's eyes. And she's, after the Vastraharan, she basically says something like, if I would have done anything for my husbands in the name of love, but for a husband, duty and societal, I guess, perception comes before love, and that was such a sort of powerful thought to communicate. The way you depicted Draupadi, and she's so again like she's so refreshing because she's flawed, she's insecure, but you also see her strength shining through. So I think this whole thing of super women, that women are supposed to be perfect all the time, especially in India. There's this thing that nowadays women have to work, they have to look after the house, they have to take care of kids, and they're supposed to look good, they're supposed to excel at everything. And here you have a character who's fundamentally flawed but so powerful and inspiring. So for me, there was such a beautiful takeaway from the book. So I think that's what really has resonated with, like you said, generations of readers across continents. That was very powerful. And by
Thank
the
you
way,
so
I think
much,
I
Meghna.
attended your book launch in New York of, I think, Palace of Illusions. must be in 2008 or 9 with my best friend. And I
Okay.
remember there was like some, I don't remember the name of the place, some big auditorium. And I think
Yeah,
Salman
I
Rushdie
think it
was
was
also there.
Asia Society. I think
Yes,
it was.
exactly. Yeah. So I attended. I was so into, and that time I was just starting off my, starting off writing. And that for me was, watching you on stage and hearing you, I was just like, oh my God, I wish I could be even 1% of what Chitra is. So
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. No, you are doing so well with your writing. I think
thank
you're
you.
doing
Thank you.
absolutely wonderfully. I'm glad you pointed out that aspect of Panchali's character in Palace of Illusion, Draupadi, as she takes the name Panchali, because she doesn't want to be known as just her father's daughter.
Yes.
She wants her own identity. So, yeah, because I wanted to show both Sita and Panchali and the other major female characters also as being flawed, because I always said, thought that is human, that is natural. Why should we expect that women should be held to a whole other standard of having to be perfect? You know, they should be the best person they can be, and that should be enough, just as with anyone else. So I'm glad you picked up on that, and that resonated. Yeah, because yeah, why there is a real, um, just like you said, there's a real push for women to be super women, and we can't. We're
It's not
women. We're
possible.
not human. So yeah, no, that's what I wanted to show in the characters.
Okay, I just want to read out one comment, a couple of comments that we've got. Mitransh Bisa says, I started reading books because of Palace of Illusions, and ever since I became a big fan of Ma'am Chitra OP. Chitra, do you know OP?
Explain again.
OP is OP to quote a fellow comedian of mine means Om Puri, but it doesn't actually. It means overpowered. It's a gaming term, which is a positive thing. That means it's a compliment.
Thank
So
you. Thank
yeah,
you. Thank you.
Divya Warrior, one of my favorite
Thank you so
names
much.
to
That's a
say.
lovely comment.
Yeah. Divya
That
Warrior, one of my favorite names in the chats always. The Palace of Illusions was one of the few books I genuinely finished till the very last page. Divya, come on. How many books have you abandoned, Divya? Vivek is getting a heart attack thinking about the number of books you've abandoned. Vivek, who reads every book, so very few people know this fact about Vivek is that he lives in a printing press. Books come out and he just starts reading them as they come out.
I
Great to see
wish,
you, Chitra
I
ji.
wish that was the case, but no, it's not.
well, I have to say that Vivek has certainly read mine, and he has been so kind and given me some very beautiful reviews. So, Vivek, I wanted to thank you in person for
Not
those
at all. It's
lovely
it's, it's my
reviews.
pleasure that for reading what you write, and I think for me more than Palace of Illusions and Forest of Enchantments, I think it was your earlier books that got me to reading you, because I remember it was 97, 98 when I picked up Arranged Marriage, the
Oh,
collection of short
the very
stories,
first
the
one,
very
yes.
first one, and then from there it was Sister of My Heart, which I absolutely loved, along with The Wine of Desire, because I think the way you write about women and their complex relationships with also each other, like when Anju and Sudha in Sister of My Heart, or even in Palace of Illusions, the relationship Draupadi or Panchali shares with her, the women around her in the book, and even in the Forest of Enchantments, I think that is so real, and at the same time, it's not easy to write about. I think very few writers get that correct and spot on when they're talking about the dynamics between women, and it's a world of their own that you always explore in your books, which I think is absolutely fantastic to me. Perhaps at that time, while growing up as a man, and even today, when I read it from a different lens, perhaps as a gay man, I think it's so wonderful to just see how it all comes together.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That has always been a big project, a central project of mine, to show women, because I think women do relate to women in a different way, quite different from how they relate to men, and how women behave when they are with women, among women is one way. How women behave when they're in mixed company is another way. How women behave when they're with men is another way. But I think they're truest to their own nature when they are with other women. So I wanted to really explore that, women that they love, as well as women with whom they have, problems. So in Palace of Illusions, Draupadi and Kunti, they're both strong women in the same household. As you might imagine, they're going to have some challenges getting along. Now, they will both grow and learn as the book goes along. But yeah, and whereas Vivek, I'm so glad you mentioned Sister of My Heart, which remains one of my favorites. Two cousins growing up truly as sisters. And that is one of the beautiful things in our Indian culture, that we have these extended families. Our family doesn't just end with father, mother, children, but can go on to include cousins, to include aunts, to include grandparents. We just heard today in Sorabh and Meghna's household how the grandparents are important. So these are some of the things that I really want to explore and have explored, especially in Sister of My Heart.
So I think a lot of people are watching. I just want to give some context to both the to specifically, I think, the two most popular novels that you've written. Palace of Illusions, of course, was basically Draupadi's narration of the Mahabharata, and Forest of Enchantments was basically, I think you also said it was like a Sitayan, which is Sita's version of the Ramayana. And from what I hear is that they're being, I think, some film element is now, there's a film version coming out. Is that true? Or?
Yes, Palace of Illusions has been optioned.
Nice.
So yeah, things have slowed down because of COVID right now, but I think they're getting ready to move forward with it. So I'm very excited about that project. But I'm under gag orders. I can't say anything more about it.
But
So
Chitra, how do you? Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, I'll just start the rumor. Chitra Banerjee Diva Karuni has been paid $78 million per page of Palace of Illusions, and it'll be turned into a nine season arc directed by Bappi Lahiri. Let's just spread the rumor. Let's just make this as
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yes, Meghna, please go ahead.
And if you spread enough of the rumor, maybe it will start becoming true.
See, I've been trying to spread the rumor about me being one of India's top comedians for about 12 years. It's not
You
really
are
caught
one of
on
India's
yet.
top comedians.
I think you are very popular.
He's very popular.
He's extremely popular, and for once he's modest now. So
Yeah, he's being modest. No, I walk on the road with him, and like people will actually stop him for selfies, and like
how nice is that?
And he grew up a very shy boy. Like till he was 18 or 19, he didn't speak. So like the first time I saw him on stage, like when I moved back to Bombay in 2013, I was getting goosebumps because I couldn't believe it's the same guy. My brother, like who would not, literally, he was so shy growing up that it was such
That's so wonderful.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. And for what he's done, self-made and non-controversial, hats off to him, honestly. And the way all the performers have reinvented the wheel during the pandemic. It's been
when you contacted me, so I asked my sources in India, should I do this show? What do you think of him? Everybody said such nice things about you. Everybody said all positive things. And like you were saying, Meghna, non-controversially, everybody loves you. So thank you for having me.
Oh, no, that's really sweet. By the way, I'm not on social media for the last week because I'm getting death threats on Instagram and hate mail from people on Twitter and on Facebook. So I'm on social media for the last week. So I'm very uncontroversial, guys. People. By the way, this is one of my big grouses. Meghna mentioned that I didn't speak till I was 18, which is an absolute lie. Okay, it's I started when I was 23. But one of the stories, okay, one of these legendary stories that I find really irritating. I don't know about you guys. Is about Albert Einstein, I think, who didn't speak any words till he was 5, and then the story goes that he said this soup is too cold or something. They said, hey, why haven't you spoken till now? And he said, things were very adequate so far. And I'm like, that's a bullshit story. That's such a bullshit story. That never happened. This is absolute trash. That never happened.
It's all rubbish, I'm telling you. It just cooked up. Someone who was really good with words just tried to put it down.
Yeah. Do you guys remember the first words you spoke as human beings? Like, do you remember?
Let's slap Sorabh.
Yeah.
I would like to think I just said book, I think, but can it be? I don't think that's the case at all. But instead of saying mama, papa, all that, I think it just be book.
Maybe I said khana.
I like Vivek's instinct is that, hey, I don't want to talk to you guys. Give me the book. I just want to go.
Books are better than humans.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which is
actually.
kind of true sometimes. But then human
Well,
beings write books,
books do
so
have
Yeah.
they do have their positives, you know.
yeah.
So sometimes people ask me, which is your favorite book? So I'm like, books are not like children. You can't have a favorite. You love all your books and so forth. So then I say, but actually books are better than children because my children are now in their 20s, but at that time they were early 20s. Now they're late 20s. So I said, for with my books, I never have to wake up at 2 a.m. and think, what is my book doing now and where is it?
So, but Chitra, which is from all the collection of books that you've written, if you had to really pick one as your most favorite, which one would that be?
I think, I think at this moment, because I'm kind of fickle, I always like the latest one the best. I think right now it is Forest of Enchantments because I think I hope I grow with each book. With each book, I set myself a higher level of challenge. So I think Forest of Enchantments right now is the one where I feel that, and I spent a lot of time with that book. So I feel that, yeah, I managed to achieve, by God's grace, I managed to achieve what I set out to do, to show not only Sita in her complexity, but to show all the different women of the Ramayana in hopefully a different light so that people start thinking about those characters and what their lives can teach us because there's so much to learn from them. That's the wonderful thing about our epics, which is, I think, why the books have become popular. They are ever living and very powerful tales, and they do continue to teach us some timeless lessons and values. And yeah, some of the things Sita does is so timely and appropriate when at the very end, when Rama is saying to her, please do one Agni Pariksha, go into the fire and everything will be fine. You will be back in the palace. Children will be here. We will be a happy family. And she says, no, I'm not going to compromise my values. I mean, that is a very powerful thing for her to say. She knows she'll lose everything if she doesn't listen to him. She's like, I'm not going to compromise. So
That's
Okay, we're going to
amazing.
take a question from Meghna. Before that, just want to tell everybody who's watching to please like so that more people can pop in. Like and subscribe if you're absolutely new to this. We have a couple of super chats coming in, which I will read after Meghna's question. Vedahi Vihari, who's a new member, I will read out that, and then I'll read out the new super chat that's come from Rishika Mitra. Meghna, please go ahead and ask your question, Meghna.
So I just
Please.
wanted to ask you a quick question. Recently, only, Chitra, somebody had trolled you for saying that Lord Ram ate meat, and I want to understand, just how writers can navigate their careers long term, especially with trolls and toxic trolls and negative opinions. When it comes to especially India's epics and mythologies, religion, and superstition. So you dealt with it in such a mature and almost kind manner, but like what is your key takeaway, like what have you learned in your long, because you've been writing now for 25 years and you have such a huge beautiful body of work. So what do you think, I mean, with this changing sort of interaction of social media, with authors interacting directly with their readers, uh, how are you navigating this whole space? Like how would you advise authors also to navigate this space now?
One of the biggest lessons I learned, and I learned it early in my career with my first novel, Arranged Marriage, because when it came out in the US, and that, as Vivek probably will remember, it's a very realistic portrayal of immigrant life, especially for women. What are their challenges? There are also happy times and happy stories, but overall, what are your challenges? And remember, this came out in the 70s. It came out in the 90s, but it is about the 70s when I first moved there. No internet, very little phone connection. You're almost cut off from your family. You can't afford to make long phone calls. Those aerograms take like a month before by the time they go and they come back. So you really felt very cut off. and you're in a strange place, and yet it's exciting. Yes, there is growth. So what was that experience like? And I think also when you go to a distant place, you begin to see what you love about your culture, but you also begin to see what's problematic about it. So many of the characters were experiencing this, and they were experiencing maybe relationship problems with their husbands or with their children, sometimes with their extended families. Let's say there was a mother-in-law or a father-in-law. So some of my early readers in the US were very upset. They're like, why are you showing these problems about our community? Now everyone will think our community has problems. And my take was that a writer has to write the truth. Otherwise, what is the point of it? We have to write whatever we see the complex truth is. If there is a problem, we have to shine the light on it, because otherwise, until we accept that we have problems, we cannot change any of them. So, for example, one of the things that I write about is domestic violence. And I think now people have gotten used to the fact that I write these things. But in the beginning, there was a lot of outcry. There was a lot of anger, and people would come to the readings and they would say, why are you writing about these things? So I learned early on that you are never going to please all the people, right? You just have to stay true to your vision. And as long as you are doing it with the right attitude and you have done your research and you've been intelligent about how you've portrayed it, that's good enough. We're never going to please everybody, so I don't even try. I figure the people who really read carefully, they will get something out of the book. And by God's grace, God's blessing, there have been enough good people. So every once in a while, a question will come up, like this one that you mentioned on Twitter. Suddenly this person writes, how can you say Lord Ram ate meat? This is a terrible thing. Anyway, you know how it went. So I said, read the original. I didn't make that up. It's right there in Valmiki. He went hunting, Dashrath went hunting, they were Kshatriyas. That is what happened. And in fact, even the rishis and munis, we get stories where they ate meat. So I wanted to, because my first impulse was not to just ignore it. And then I thought, no, that person and everyone who reads that needs to know what is the truth. So as far as if I can ever express the truth, I will respond. And if it's just something where, people are just saying, I hate your book just because I hate your book, then I'm like, okay, that's your opinion. You're entitled to it.
Yeah.
So I think the best thing is just to, take it in stride. And we're never going to please people. In fact, sometimes when it's a strong book, we will displease people. So it's almost like a reverse compliment.
That's beautiful. So you
Okay,
can
I have
fight
a couple.
people with about facts but not opinions. I
That
think
is
that's
true.
beautifully said.
Um, okay, we have Vedahi Vihari, who's a new member, who asked a question. I'm going to open this out to everybody. In fact, love your work, Chitra ma'am. How easy or difficult was it to write from the female perspective stories that are etched in the minds of people from a dominantly male perspective? I think you've answered this question quite a lot, but I'm sure you get it quite a lot as well.
Yeah, and that's really actually a very important and relevant question. The whole purpose of my retelling these epics was to write it from the women's point of view, because right from when I was um, a child and I first heard these stories, my grandfather used to tell me these stories when I used to go spend my summer vacations with him. So, I have a lot of happy memories of that. But I always used to think, wow, it's all about the men. It's all about the wars, this weapon, that weapon, this warcraft, that warcraft. Well, what about the women? What are they thinking? We hear what happens to them, but they must be thinking something while all these things are going on. What about their story? So I was interested in that from quite young. But at that time, I never thought I would become a writer, right? I didn't think I would become a writer until I was, well into my 20s. I was in the US. Only then I started writing. But the question of what must be going on in Draupadi's head, in Sita's head, in Kunti's head, in Ravan's wife Mandodari's head. It really made me think a lot. So that was always my project. So it was it difficult? Yes, it was difficult. I had to really get inside the character. Meghna, you everybody here is a writer. You know that in order for a really good character to come alive, you have to kind of get inside that character. You have to think like that character from inside. You're not
Yes.
like just looking at that character from the outside. So that's what I tried to do in all my books, but especially these books, because the heroines have gone, it goes back in time, and the story angle has always been different. It has been a very male angle, as our questioner puts very correctly.
But by the way, I just want to point out that all of you have books in the background, and I just have children's puzzles. I mean, I just want to point this out, just for relevance sake. And it's very weird how the puzzles at my background look the same as the books in Vivek's background.
Yeah, they're just one piled one. There's no space left. I mean, what do I do? Any space I get, I just use it to store books.
That's lovely. I think books are the best things. If we're going to have things around us,
Might as
books
well
are
be
wonderful.
books, right? I have a question for you, Chitra, if I may. So,
Yes.
I've always felt, and whenever we watched also Ramayana and Mahabharata on television, Ramayana comes across as very Stepford wife, very clinical, very correct, very proper. Everything is just, good or bad. There are no in-betweens. Whereas Mahabharata is a bit more complex in that sense. You have shades of gray attached to almost every, if I can say, character or being. So when you were writing or retelling these stories, was it easier to write the Forest of Enchantments as compared to the Palace of Illusions? And what do you think about the differences between the two epics?
I think you've pointed it out very well that the Ramayana has been, at least it's been interpreted as much more black and white, right? Actually, though, when we go back to the original Valmiki, there's a lot of nuance that we kind of lost down the ages. I think one of the things is when Tulsidas ji wrote his Ramayana, Ramcharitmanas, it's a beautiful text, but it is very black and white, right? Sri Ram is a deity. He's God in that, and therefore he is portrayed in a particular way. He's no longer portrayed as human. Whereas in Valmiki, yes, he's an avatar, but he's human. He has taken human birth. He goes through all of the human feelings. He is angry sometimes. He is upset sometimes. He weeps when Sita is, abducted. So there's a lot more of nuance than we think. The Mahabharata, from the beginning, it is the story of, kings and politicians, and it's about intrigue, and it's about breaking promises, and it's about, all of these gambling, all of these things. So therefore, it is always nuanced. And also, Krishna, who I love the character of Krishna, and I hope I have been able to do a good job with him in Palace of Illusions. Krishna, who's really Draupadi's best friend. And he is also such a charming person, right? He is a very complex person. Of course, he is standing up for righteousness, but he'll do it in his own way, right? He will make use of whatever he needs to for the end result of righteousness. So that is a much more nuanced epic. And perhaps for that reason, I started with that one. I started with Palace of Illusions. I could imagine it more fully. And I knew that with Ramayana, I would really have to think through things much more, because my belief is Ram and Sita are just as complex as Draupadi, Krishna, Pandavas, Kunti, all of them. But we haven't been used to seeing them that way. So I had to make sure that I created them and made them powerful enough so that people would be drawn into their complexities.
Thank you.
We have a question from the super chats. Rishika Mitra asks, absolutely love Chitra ma'am's writing. Could you ask her how she visualizes and her writing process? Live you. I'm assuming you were trying to say love you. Love you, Meghna, Vivek, and Sorabh. Thank you. Let's open this out to everybody. Actually, how do you guys actually visualize something before you're writing it, and what is your writing process? And also, I'm sure it changes. I don't think is there just one thing. It also changes. Whoever wants to go.
Meghna, why don't you start this time?
Oh God. For me, I mean, I have a 8-month-old baby. I was telling Chitra also at the start of this conversation, and a 3-year-old. So imagine during a pandemic, being locked into Mumbai, a typical size apartment with a hyper toddler and a squirming baby. But I don't know why somehow motherhood. Every time I'm nursing, for some reason, just because people have told me you can't, I'm at my most productive. And I don't know, it's completely illogical, right? Because there's such little time that I have to actually write and collect my thoughts or to even hear my own thoughts. But when my first daughter was born, I ended up writing Feminist Rani and How to Get Published in India. And also like a little book called The Holy 100. It's an ebook, which the Mahabharata, Ramayana, and the Gita in 100 sentences. So, it's accessible to people like me, because I feel like nowadays people are not reading the big epics anymore because of lack of time or attention or whatever it is. So you understand the gist of the whole story in a poetic manner. And this time I've ended up writing my magnum opus, my biggest novel, which is, by the way, about domestic violence. And Chitra, that was another thing I loved about, your entire body of work, that you've actually created a helpline called Maitri, I think, to help women who face physical abuse. So I've written a book about that, where the woman is no longer a victim, but she fights back. And it's very snarky. It's very funny. I want to take away this whole victimhood that women are always, that space that women are always supposed to occupy. And obviously, it's inspired by my true story. So it's very close to my heart, and I think it's the biggest novel I've ever written. I've also written a movie script, because I think nowadays anybody who's a writer will tell you there's no money to be made in writing unless you enter, a book gets picked up for
Or unless you're Chitra, sorry.
Maybe I should look into movie script writing too.
No, it's quite lucrative. So and it's an interesting platform again. So, and I've started just working on my another novel as well. But it's very interesting that my timings keep changing as well. As a writer, I don't have any fixed timing, but people keep telling me, Meghna, how are you writing during the pandemic? So I keep telling people, if I can do it, and I'm obsessive, I'm completely obsessed. But don't make excuses. That's the one thing I tell all aspiring writers, that if I can do it with 2 squealing kids, during a pandemic, I think anyone can. So just take out even 1 hour a day if you can, and when you're free, or whenever you can, collect your thoughts. If you're in the kitchen making chai, or doing jharu poncha, whatever it is you're doing, that's the time the characters must come alive in your head. That's the time you form those ideas to later put them down. So a lot of the writing job is thinking. And I think we can think in the shower, we can think anywhere, right? Who can stop our thoughts? So I think that's one thing as a writer I've found, that you shouldn't quote lack of time as a reason not to write. There's always time. You can make time because you're the master of your own time. And I think motherhood, especially early motherhood, should not have women refrain from writing, but instead make them more powerful. And I hope this sort of thought, inspires other women, because during the lockdown, I know women have been burdened with a lot more chores than before. So it's been a very, very difficult year, especially I think for women. So I hope that keeps changing.
I think you're very right. Those are great thoughts. Vivek, you wanted to add something to that?
My writing, there's no writing process, and I'm only 1 book old, so I have nothing really to say. But just that, and the first one is a memoir, and the second one also is taken from life. So really, I mean, whatever I feel like I want to, write about my life per se, I put it down, and that's it. I mean, but I finished 1 book during the pandemic, so I'm very happy about that. That I managed to write it. But it was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun because nothing else to do, right? So might as well just sit and write a new book.
But Vivek, how was the plunge into writing? Because you've been such a vociferous reader. So when you had your book out, what was like
Voracious
their
reader.
experience?
Vociferous reader
Sorry,
would be
please, I
somebody
haven't
who's
slept
reading,
last night.
who's like reading really
You can say
loudly.
vociferous.
It's like he went into the shop. Everybody's like, wow, he's a really
But I
vociferous
see
reader.
him as vociferous. Sorry. I haven't slept in very long, guys, but I still think it's the right word. Like, what was that plunge into writing like? Like, especially after having, been
It
such
was
an
very
avid
scary.
reader.
It was very scary because you're constantly, because at one point you read so much that you just don't want to write and ruin what you've read in that sense. I don't know if I'm making sense, but you get so scared because you're like, will it ever be good enough? And of course, rightly so, like Chitra said, that you cannot please everyone. So then at one point I had to stop thinking about that. It won't be good enough. And for a lot of people, for more than a lot of people. So, but if you want to write, you want to write, right? So what do you do about it? You're just very happy that you got a publishing contract to begin with, and and you sit and write.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, I think that's absolutely right. Um, Especially if you're writing memoir, you know that you're not going to please everybody. I think memoir writers are very courageous. I am always hiding behind fiction. People say, "Oh, did you write about me?" I said, "No, it's fiction." Why
I
would
have
you? I wrote
I have
about you.
lost a lot of family to my book. So
Well, I guess
That
about it.
was my fear. That's why I'm not writing
yeah.
nonfiction.
Sort of, they bought the book. That was great, but
Right, right.
they also threw it and they flung it across the room because they're like, "What rubbish! We never said that." And I'm like, "Yes, you did."
Yeah.
So
But
So
but
this
Chitra, do
is
you
a
have
great
a
question. Yeah, I wanted to respond to this wonderful question and I loved hearing everybody. I am a big visualizer. I, you know, Before I became a writer, I was a painter. So I used to paint from when I was in high school. I painted. And so I'm very visual and I have to imagine the scene. I have to imagine the character. I have to get a sense of what does the character look like and how is the character moving across their space. What is this whole scene? If one character is meeting another character, what are they wearing? I have to be able to see all of it. Maybe not every detail will come in the writing, but I have to be able to imagine who this person is, what they look like, what is their way of talking. I just have to know all those things. And my writing is very character based, so I have to know about the character before I even start anything with the plot. So I have notebooks in which I'll make notes about all of the different characters before I even get past my first scene. Maybe I'll write a few lines and then I have to stop and I have to make more notes. So that's kind of how I'm writing. And Meghna, I really appreciate what you said about, finding the time to write. It's not like anybody has time just handed to them. We are all busy people, and especially during the pandemic or if we have small children, time is a challenge, but it's all a matter of priorities. So often we prioritize other things and we do those things. So as writers, I think we really just have to make writing a priority. And often I remember when I was the kids were smaller and I was writing and there would be no time. I would make the kids sleep in my study. I would put quilts on the floor and they would sleep right there and I would be working, and that became the normal for them. So the wonderful thing about kids is they're quite flexible. If you say, yeah, we're going to do it, and you make it sound like fun, often they will just go along with you. And often I had to give up on other things. So, now I teach at the University of Houston, and students ask me, "Oh, it's so busy. How can we find time?" And I said, you have to be able to give up some things. If writing is going to be important, give up some of your other activities in which you spend time. So, I cut down things like watching TV, talking with friends on the phone. I made them very small parts of my life. Of course, I would talk to friends, but hours and hours of gossiping on the phone, I just cut out those things
Yeah.
because we have to be very focused. That is the thing. It's not so much time, it's that we have to make it a priority and focus on it.
Exactly.
And then if we really think about it, once we start doing that, the joy of writing comes out. And then that is what we want to do, the joy of imagining something and creating something. It is so wonderful. I mean, just like you guys were saying, I also focused during this pandemic as best as I could I was working on a historical novel, and I said, I'm going to finish this novel during the pandemic. And I just finished it and turned it into my publisher, HarperCollins. And I felt so thankful because, thank you. I felt so thankful that I had some place to go, like imaginatively, I could enter that world because the world around me was, really full of many challenges. So I think as writers, writing just gives us a place to go to. And when we realize that, we will make time for it, right? So it's always going to be challenging. Writing is challenging. Any creative activity is challenging. But the joys are so great that it's well worth making time for it in our lives.
But do you write like 12
If
hours a
that
day?
makes
Because I see your body of work and I'm like, she must be writing all the time. Like first thing in the morning, wake up at like 5 a.m. and like, is that true? It's because I always
I'm not a very,
very, very hard.
I'm not a very early riser, but yeah, I do spend a lot of time. And writing is my activity number one, along with family writing. That's really important. The work with domestic violence, that's very important for me. So, I spend some time with that. But yeah, I don't do a lot of other things. I've just cut out like bunches of things from my life because, life is short. You have to focus on what's important.
Absolutely.
That's so
So
true.
interesting how I started working on the fourth book and I realized I couldn't write a fiction because fiction requires so much work, like visualizing and figuring out who this character is and why they exist, and it's just like it's too much. So I also given the time, so I just I just got I got a contract from Rupa to write a non-fiction book. And because as a stand-up comedian, you're just writing in any case, right? It's except most of my writing is done in front of people. I rarely write jokes now. It's just that I have this concept in my head, and so for a change, I had to write stuff, and I had to write about like so. And the most interesting thing about writing comedy non-fiction, like from the POV of a stand-up comedian, suddenly started giving me like because I started researching things more because I'm like this is ye kitab hai. Like it's not like I'm just like yeah like you have to give like information, and suddenly I started getting more and more the bits started getting more and more insightful, and I'm like that's interesting, this is a good process to follow. So I mainly took it up because some money coming in during the pandemic. So for me it was like while there is passion and there's all this stuff, I'm like, oh, this is EMI. This is good. And the visualization is interesting to me because what I like to do is that when I'm writing, I don't know if any of you follow this, I'll write for about an hour and a half or two, and then I'll lie down and I'll visualize what the next bit is going to be, just to see where it comes from. So now, from the outside perspective, my wife and every like the house help is just looking at. They're like, "साहब तो पूरे time सोते ही रहते हैं, कुछ काम नहीं करते, ऐसे लेटे हुए वहाँ पर." Like, no, I'm visualizing. Like सो रहा है, टकला सो रहा है, कुछ काम नहीं कर रहा है यहाँ पर. So yeah, but the visualization is an interesting thing. Okay,
Yeah.
we have
No,
quite a
Sorab,
few.
I just
Yes, sir.
wanted to
Yes,
add
ma'am.
that when I get really stuck in a book, that's what I do. I go lie down and I close my eyes. And sometimes the idea will come only in that situation. And it's same in my house. Everybody's like, what? You're sleeping in the middle of the day? You don't do any work.
I was in fact, so I'd written a book called Under Delhi, and we were sort of pitching it to OTT platforms. And I wrote the first episode, and I'm like, I'm a genius. And then they gave me feedback saying, hey, this requires some edits. And I'm like, excuse me? How dare you question my genius? And it took like a month and a half for me to accept that, yeah, maybe this requires changes. And again, it's the same lying down format and trying to figure out the where it flows, and it actually works quite nicely usually. So yeah. Okay, we have a lot of questions. Again, if you're watching the stream, please do like and subscribe if you're new to the stream. We have a question from Vedant Pofale who says, do you think people ignore the multifaceted nature of mythology in order to criticize or praise it and miss the entire point of the texts?
Yeah, I think so. People who are quick to criticize the books, they are really missing out on that multifaceted aspect. And also that one of the things that is so beautiful in our culture is that through the ages, great writers have always felt that they could reinterpret the book, that the book is, they took it in, it is theirs, and now they can write it. They're not going to change it completely, but their understanding of the character or their understanding of a particular situation, was it moral, was it immoral, they feel that it is perfectly okay. It's like saying, this is my own. I can tell this story again. And that is what's so beautiful in our culture, I think, that there's always been a place for many voices and many interpretations, which has made the whole field, let's say, of the Ramayana or the Mahabharata or even other texts, it has made it much richer, right? So I think we don't want to lose that. That is, we absolutely don't want to lose that in our culture. This multifacetedness, the multiplicity of voices, that is what makes our Indian culture beautiful and rich, right? So I certainly hope that we will keep that going.
Have Vivek or Meghna, have you guys ever attempted to write? I mean, Meghna, you wrote the 100, what is it? 100, what?
Well,
100
the startup is 100 Tweet Mahabharat.
100 tweet
Then it
Mahabharata.
got converted into a little ebook called the Holy 100. So all the major Hindu texts have been written in 100 sentences, and it's like a poem basically.
Yeah, and wasn't it wonderful that you thought of this new way of doing it and now you presented that? And of
Exactly.
course, you should be free to do it, right? Because it
Exactly.
throws a different kind of light. It makes it available for people who don't have time to read the whole thing. And if we
Exactly.
ever say, no, people should not do it, this is holy text, we're creating a great disadvantage.
Absolutely. Chitra, I wanted to quickly ask how you respond to plagiarism, because I think Sister of My Heart was made into some Pakistani TV show, and
Yeah.
without Mera Naseeb or
Yeah,
something,
they did
without
not
due credit.
ask permission, nothing, nothing. Suddenly, my fans are writing, oh, we are seeing Sister of My Heart. Now it is called Mera Naseeb. So,
Yeah.
it's very difficult to do anything sitting in the US. So I tried for a while with lawyers and all that. And then one of the lawyers, this older, experienced gentleman, he said, let me give you some advice. Just forget about it because you will never get to the end of it. If it was in India, at least we could have done something. This is in Pakistan, nothing can be done. So I said, okay,
So,
it
Pakistan,
is their karma.
they also made a series of the God of Small Things. It's called Talkia or something like that. And they
Without
didn't
giving
take
credit.
permission, without giving credit to Arundhati Roy, without
Oh my
taking
God.
permission. And I'm like,
See, that is the thing. If they want to make, if they take permission, etc., we'll probably say okay. But that is what hurts. That if someone just steals your work
yeah.
and passes it off on as their own, but I'm like, it's their karma. They have to deal with it, and hopefully it won't happen again. But how do you control in other countries? It's very hard to control.
Okay.
Like lawyers would really not be happy with you saying it's their karma. Lawyers are like, no, but it's our money. How can I take our money like this? But yeah, that's I don't know. Like I don't know, because I think international law is such a complicated thing when you think about it.
Very, very,
It's
very. How are you going to, even if it is legally you win?
yeah.
I had a lawyer in India. They said, how are we going to enforce it? It's not enforceable in Pakistan, even if in India they rule that is yes, they have done a bad thing, or if in the US they rule they have done a bad thing. How are you going to implement it in another country? It's very difficult.
See,
So
this is how China has inspired the world, which is just don't ask for permission. Take it, make your own thing, and move on. We do this with technology also. Okay, we have one more question coming in from Gaurav Mohite, who asks, "Good morning, all. Good morning to you, Gaurav. Thanks, Saurabh, for this live and introducing me to new books. List बढ़ रही है." That's yeah. So yeah. Okay, Ayush Yadav says this question isn't really related to the current discussion, but I asked this because where did it go? This question only disappeared. How weird. This is a question that gets asked actually a lot, which is about favorite books, right? And the favorite books question, I mean, as somebody, so you know what, I thought about this for a long time, and I realized that the two, I know my favorite song and I know my favorite series of books. But if you ask me what my second is, I have no idea. So my favorite song in the world is Jumru with Kishore Kumar. It's just everything to me in the world. Where I'm like, it's a traveler, it's joyous, it's crazy, and it's the same thing way I feel about Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But I'm like, this is my favorite book. But what's second? I don't know. Like, that's an impossible question to ask. So, do you guys also feel that there's one bit of art that is sort of it completely resonates with your entire being as such?
Vivek, you're the best read one of us all.
That's why this question is very difficult for me. I mean, I'm not the best well-read, but I think the question is very difficult to answer. But I think for me, that one body of work that really, really resonates would definitely be The God of Small Things, and I don't know
The
why.
what? Sorry, I
The
didn't
God
hear.
of Small Things, and I don't know why, but I think I've read it and reread it and reread it so many times, and sort of had a relationship with the book and still do. So it's just extremely, and I've never tried to wonder like why it's my favorite book and why do I go back to it the way I do. So, but it's there, so I just let it be. Like it's there. So yeah.
I haven't read the book, but I've seen the Pakistani TV show. It's quite- it's quite
Listen,
good.
I literally wept when I watched it. I was like, "What is this?
Is it
What have
badly?
you done?" It is so bad.
Oh God.
It is so
Okay.
bad. And
I
I'm
don't
wondering,
justice if you're going to copy it without credit.
but I'm really happy that nobody in India made it because they would never get it
They
anyway.
won't get it. But even like The Fountainhead was such a bad movie as compared to the book. It was the worst movie I've ever watched.
Are
I've
we,
got
are
a-
we
One of
getting
my
into
most
this
favorite
debate
books.
again? Are we
I've
getting into
got,
this debate again about
No, I'm going to talk about
Fountainhead?
Alice Munro, okay, who's
Listen to
actually
me. Sorry, just 1 second before you continue. You know, they made a series of Fountainhead in India,
oh God,
in
oh
Hindi,
no,
starring
Oh,
Amrita
wow.
Singh as Dominique Franklin.
oh my God, I
Look
don't
at
want to hear
Meghna's
it.
face. It's called Asma Se Aage, and all the episodes are available on YouTube. This is my PSA, public
I
service
can't watch it.
announcement.
I
You have
already
to
don't want to
watch it.
watch it.
No, you
No,
have to watch it.
I have enough horror to contend
Yeah, I
with.
don't think I can watch it
Even I
either.
can't watch
Watching
it.
a bad movie is very
It
harmful.
has,
It's
it
very
has
bad to
Pankaj
recover from a
It
Kapoor.
just shakes
bad
up your
movie.
psyche.
Exactly.
It has a great star cast. It's got Reema Lagoo, Pankaj Kapoor, Kiran Kumar, Naveen
Oh.
Nischal. So I think you guys should watch it.
No, I'm still not sold. It'll ruin the book for me. And I think after the movie, it was already like on the downside. But Alice Munro is a writer whose body of work I've really loved. Apart from like people like, of course, Chitra, then Arvind Adiga, Rohinton Mistry. Those are the kind of works I really feel are missing right now a lot in the Indian landscape. I think it's become all about noise and less about talent, unfortunately, in the past few years, which I'm really missing that good. I'm seeing college kids are not reading what we grew up reading, like Chitra or Arundhati Roy
Rohinton
uh,
Mistry with that
The
man.
more serious books, I think
More
the
serious
more
books.
serious books are the ones that really, I think young people do need to be encouraged to read them, because if they're encouraged to read them and they get beyond the first few pages that may be difficult, then the rewards are so wonderful.
Exactly.
And we're talking about my favorites. I have to say that I keep going back to Tagore. He is one of my favorite writers, and because I'm blessed that I can read him in the original Bengali, although there are now very good translations, and I teach his work also because I want the students to learn from him. He is so good at doing women's characters and voices. And at that time, that was not a woman-centric time, right? Coming out of that time. So I have learned a great deal from him. I keep reading him. But also all the people that you're mentioning, Arundhati Roy, Arvind Adiga, Rohinton Mistry, Amitabh Ghosh, I love his books as well. So these are all, we are blessed to have many very good writers, Indian writers writing in English and in Bengali. I don't know the other languages, but these are
But
the
right
languages.
now, Chitra, I don't know, I don't know if you've read Vivek Shanbag or Benjamin or K.R. Mira. Their books have been translated and they're very, very,
Benjamin, I've read,
yeah.
yes.
Those are I think for me, the new favorites, over the past couple of years. I've really enjoyed their work. Yeah.
Very interesting. Like, so I'm going through the comments right now, and it's interesting. Like Gaurav Bendur says, favorite book is Berserk, and you guys will be like, hey, what is that? And so and I'm going to screw this up, and people are going to start getting angry. It's basically manga. So
Ah,
a lot of younger people are reading. Is it manga or manga?
manga,
Whatever it is, manga.
manga.
See,
Manga.
Vivek knows. Yeah. So a lot of
My
younger people are
sons also
reading.
read.
Yeah,
My sons also like that.
yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I'm so I've never been able to get into graphic novels or manga as much, because I think a lot of it is also appreciating the artwork, and one part of me is just like, just tell me the story, and so then I finish the thing in 30 minutes, whereas people take like hours just going like, oh, this is great. But I mean, there is definitely some ridiculous art involved in this. There's some great art both from a writing and art, like actual artwork perspective. So I'm not sure how I feel about this thing, and I'm like, this is good as long as you're reading something that makes you happy and it resonates with you in some way. That's a good thing. So read whatever you want.
Yeah, actually, I agree with Saurabh in terms of reading whatever you want. So
Agree.
yeah, I think also, we are so caught up sometimes with the most serious literature, but I think literature, as long as it sort of, in a way, and it may sound very cliche, but sets you free and gives you that escape for that, some time during the day. I think for that person who's reading it, it
Yeah.
means so much.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm a big fan of what you just said, Vivek. In fact, when I teach my students, if I'm teaching, let's say, the undergraduates, I always give them fun things to read because I want them to develop the habit. I want them to feel that reading is fun and I want to do more reading. And so I always give them fun, upbeat, well written, but upbeat stories where they'll really appreciate the character. They'll really, they'll really love the whole experience. And it's same with my children. I remember reading all the Harry Potter books with them. And then later, as they grew up, the Lord of the Rings books. And I enjoyed them just as much because they were like wonderful questions.
So
They were
I
like
mean, it's
wonderful.
an interesting question about fun, right? About the fun parts of reading. Like I remember ages back, I think whatever 2000 whatever or 19 something. I remember reading Inscrutable Americans, which I mean, if you read it now, you'll be like, okay, this it's obviously not aged well because it's a comedy, and comedies tend to not age as well as you'd want them to. But I remember reading that book and going like, oh, this is fun. Why isn't there more books like this? This is such a fun, silly book. So I mean, I'm asking the question to all of you, which is that what are some fun books that you'd like to recommend to people? I mean, like like for me, the people who are fun is Gaiman is always fun, and I mean, there's always fun books to read, like American Gods, even though it seems like a intimidating whatever 1,000-page book, it's fun. It's interesting and it's fun. So, what are the fun books you guys recommend to people who are trying to sort of get into reading and stuff like that?
So
Chitra, we'll start with you since you said
yeah,
the fun suggestion. Yeah.
Let's see. Uh, I don't know. I love reading science fiction. I love reading fantasy. So, I recommend. I more than one writer or another. I say to people, what kind of book do you like? What kind of book do you like? And now, what with Flipkart and Amazon and things like that. There's so many. You can just go there, or Goodreads. Goodreads is a great place where if you go type in the kind of book you like, you'll get a lot of suggestions. You'll get like a summary, you'll get little excerpts. So that's how I recommend books to people. And we could, people could even do like great movies that were taken from books. If you enjoyed the movie, go take a look at the book. And it's a very interesting experience. I think it doesn't work so well the other way. If you read the book first,
yeah.
then you've already imagined it in your head, and the movie is usually disappointing. But a lot of times, if you see the movie first and then you go to the book, then you're like, wow, look, there's so many other layers to this character or this situation. And so I've always found that to be a good experience for me. So, yeah, I remember I saw the movie Godfather, and then I went and read the book, and it was a very good kind of experience to put the two side by side. So I recommend that to people.
I find even like Malgudi days, or some of the old Indian books,
Lovely.
even Ruskin Bond, Sudha Murthy. I find those books a lot of fun. And recently also forced myself to read James Patterson books just to understand the whole sort of commercial model behind, the
I,
businessman behind the writer. That was
sorry, I like your choice of word, forced myself to read, which is
there are a lot of books I
Yeah.
forced myself to
No,
get
I
through,
like
as a writer to understand other writers' techniques.
I think for me, off late, there's this two book series by Moni Mohsin. She's a Pakistani writer,
Yeah, yeah.
and The Diary of a Social Butterfly and Tender Hooks. And I've never legit laughed this hard and loud while reading a book like I have while reading those two. So every time I feel that I'm not feeling too well or good, I just go back to those books, and rightly so, they make me laugh. I think it's hilarious the way she does it. Like for me, even when reading My Family and Other Animals, going back to
Yeah,
it,
I remember that book from when I was from my childhood.
it
I
just
remember reading that. It's really laugh out loud
out,
funny.
yeah, completely. So I think even PG Wodehouse, for that matter, absolutely love what he wrote. So I think it's always good to go back to fun reads.
Yeah, yeah. For me, it's the fantasy genre. I love the fantasy genre. Takes me into a whole other world. So, and my sons are my librarians. They recommend the fantasy books because they really read a lot of them. So there's one called The Name of the Wind. It
Yeah.
is in various. It's just a beautiful book. So there, and it's just these are fun reads. They're just so much fun.
My
You go
manager
into a
Manav
whole other
Avasthi,
world.
my manager Manav Avasthi, who people watching will know, has said The Godfather was my first ever book. Absolutely mind blown and confused, which is a weird like feedback to the Godfather. The one I love reading, and by the way, forget James Patterson. The one like I'm waiting for October 26th, which people will be like, what? Because the new Lee Child book is coming out, and I love Lee Child, and Lee Child is just I've read every single one of those books, and I'm like, this is great. It's just absolute, like it's just because I think I get invested in a character a lot, and the character of
Hmm.
Jack Reacher, I'm like, do whatever you want, enjoy yourself. Like my friend is like, dude, I didn't like the last book. I'm like, but he was there. What is your problem? So I'm like, I'm happy to read whatever he's written. So that's my usually go to like fun book which I have to read. This thing, but as I get older, I realize that I'm starting to find nonfiction a lot more. I wouldn't say entertaining, but a lot more riveting. Like I finally was reading Darbar by Tavleen Singh, and I was like, this is, I'm not saying it's fun, I'm just saying it's a riveting read. As you get, I don't know if this happens to any of you guys, where as you get older or whatever, that you start finding non-fiction. Like I'm finding books about India and politics. Like I was also reading I think this was on the basis of Manu Pillai's recommendation, Crime Pays, When Crime Pays, which is a book about how like prior to the 2014 elections, where this guy basically did a profile on how criminality in Indian politics is a profitable business, and he
Wow.
goes through all the breakdown of it, and it's quite interesting. So yeah, I don't know if that's the case for you guys with nonfiction.
I think
Well,
Case of
I like
Exploding
books
Mangoes is a
about
beautiful book.
cities.
Cities, yeah.
Yeah. So, like Maximum City about Mumbai, I
Yeah,
thought that was so fascinating. I really liked that. And then, Sacred Games, that was a fictional book that became a movie. Also, I'm sure you've seen the
yeah.
movie. So I like books that are set in places and explore like the soul of a city. And talking about exploration, I think I have to explore my dream world now because it's really late. It's almost 1 a.m. over
Oh
here.
wow!
Oh
Oh,
God, wow.
I have to
Thanks
I
so
have
much for
to
your time,
get up
Chitra.
tomorrow to work. So
No, that's so sweet of you.
like,
Thank you so much for your time.
oh, the
Again,
time just passed like this. It was so fun talking to you guys, and it's lovely to have all of you here together with me. I feel
Same here,
like
Chitra.
we had a real conversation, and a big hello to all the viewers, and thank you for all those great questions. So, as soon as I can, I'm going to go check out the YouTube and see how I really looked on screen.
you look
I hope
great.
that will
Beautiful as
not give you a
always.
terrible shock.
The last time I
So
saw you at your book
thank
launch
you.
in Mumbai, you were stunning as always. Beautiful
Thank
and
you.
poised and intelligent. Such a rare combination.
Thank you
Thank you
for
so much,
saying
man.
that. Thank
Thank
you
you.
from
Nice
a
of you.
beautiful and poised woman like you. That's a great
Thank you.
thing.
Thanks a
So
lot.
thanks,
Thank
Thank
everybody.
you,
you.
Chitra.
Thanks a
Thank you
lot,
so much
Again,
for your
Chitra.
time.
Thank
Really
you. Take
appreciate it.
care.
my pleasure. Thank you for having me on your wonderful show. Okay. Take
Bye.
care.
Bye-bye.
Happy
Bye.
sleeping.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, we're just going to take a couple of questions from, we're just going to continue this for like 10-15 minutes. That's okay, guys?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Nothing to do, Saurabh. Nothing to do.
My doorbell just rang, but I'm going to ignore it.
Yeah,
No,
that's why
no.
I'm sitting in the living room just because I'm like the doorbell rings, I can just run off straight away. So, dude, I've not read or see. I saw the first Godfather, and I was like, okay, cool, see you later. And then I've never saw it again.
No, I've not watched it. I've not read it. I have no intention to doing that ever.
Yeah.
So I am
Yeah.
like very okay not watching Godfather or reading it.
Yeah.
But what
Really?
I
Why?
love, a fun
Aren't you
read, what I
curious?
love, and I absolutely, and Meghna, I think you'll agree with me, is Shobha Day. Oh God, that
Me
woman
too.
turn
I
pages.
love her work. I love her work.
Like I remember before writing my memoir, I read Selective Memory. Oh God, I've not stopped laughing. It was such a fun book.
Yeah. Even so, I don't read nonfiction much, but I read Spouse. I think the
Yeah,
title was
yeah,
Spouse.
yeah. Spouse, yes.
Just before I was getting married, and it was just so honest and kind. And I love her as a human being. I
Yes,
love her as
me
a
too.
public figure. I love her as a writer. So I just am also very enamored by her. You should get her next, Saurabh.
Saurabh, I was just going to say you should
Yeah.
get her, and please get me and Meghna on when you're getting her. Listen,
Are we still live, by the way, guys? I'm just like,
yeah,
Yeah,
we are
this is
live.
very
Oh,
much
God.
on. It's very much on. People are watching.
I would love to gossip with Shobha in public.
Yeah, she's very entertaining and fun.
This is done.
I've
This
always
is
had
the
a lot
next.
of fun with Shobha.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too. Every time I met her at Jaipur and at
Yeah.
parties, I'm like, oh God, just come and give us all the goss.
Yeah, but I've noticed this about a lot of authors, right? Where I don't want to take names, but you're hanging with them at a lit fest, and they're like, hey, this one is like that, and then this one did this, and you're like, you're so entertaining, and then you talk to them in the other thing, and you're like, oh wait, that was just the off-screen narrative, which you can't obviously translate on screen without getting into
Yeah,
trouble.
Authors are
okay.
characters onto themselves. Like I'm sure Vivek will agree. You've dealt with a lot of authors who through
I've had so much fun.
yeah. Me too. I go to Litfest primarily to just get new ideas because all the diverse characters I meet in the form of authors.
I
So it's a
think
lot of fun.
after actors, the second most insecure people are writers.
No comedians.
Or comedians?
Oh my God,
No.
I'm megalomaniacs. Oh my, I've hung out a lot with comedians and the influencers.
I
Oh,
like how Saurabh is just quiet and smiling.
No,
they
but yeah,
can't talk about anything else except themselves. So, and they think anyone else is, except Bollywood, is like pedestrian. Authors are like way down on the totem pole.
but
But they're still
I
live,
mean,
right? I should keep quiet.
yeah, you're very much live, by the way. I just want to
The
mention
number
this
of
again.
comedians, the number of comedians who have my book and haven't read it, and they still come and say, lovely book, Vivek. I'm like, "But तूने पढ़ा नहीं है." मतलब,
So I had a very interesting interaction with Manu Joseph once at the Times Lit Fest dinner
किसका
party.
नाम? What name have you evoked? But carry on.
Because I just finished reading Serious Men. I think this is again like maybe in 2013 or 14. And I went up to him and I said, Manu, I really enjoyed. I just by sheer coincidence finished reading Serious Men. And he's the first author who asked me, what exactly did you like about the book? And tell me the characters that you liked.
Wow.
Yeah. So now I'm like, this is a very good way to make out if somebody's, just faffing or they've actually read your book. But I thought that was very clever. It's,
You should be more specific with that. It's like, what is your favorite page number? Give me a quote from it. Like, just fuck them completely. They're like, what? 86. I like the a lot. But yeah, I mean, it's so. I don't know why anybody would say that, but I can understand saying that. Hey, I enjoyed your book or your movie because, like for example, you'll meet somebody randomly at a party or like at the airport, and you just say big fan, and you're not. You're really not. You just say big fan almost as an introductory thing because they expect it almost, and you don't want to be like, hey, like what? You can't just say, hey, I like your work, but not exactly. Just say big fan. Just say. And I've noticed people doing that to me also, where they come to me, they're like, big fan, man. Really love your work, man. Really great stuff. But Abhishek Upamanyu, oh. And then they'll list out 38 other comedians. And I'm like, that's fine. You don't have to be a big fan of me.
But how will they talk about comedy and other comedians with you if they don't start with big fan?
Yeah. That's the problem. Yeah.
But no, very often we forget also, like, I can't remember every book I've read, especially the books I, read like 15, 20 years ago. I've forgotten maybe even like a month ago. That's also because I have small kids right now, so I can barely remember what I did yesterday. But you can't remember, like, you may love the author or the comedian, but you won't remember exactly what they did. So I think that's just short public memory also.
Perhaps. Hey, by the way, Serious Men is now a movie on Netflix.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's coming out this week,
Yeah,
I think.
I think it's already out, if I'm not
It's out?
mistaken. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So watch it.
I honestly
actually wanna
really
get-
like the book.
I want to get Manu Joseph because I saw his interview with Kunal Kamra on Books on Toast. And
That must have been fun.
oh, dude, he was.
Imagine
like, I
Kunal
messaged
and Manu.
But I messaged Kamra. I'm like, dude, he was way funnier than you. And Kamra is like, yes, he was. I'm like, this is a fact. So I have to read Serious Man. But okay, I have a couple of questions on Super Chat. Nishtha
People are still
Chaudhary-
asking questions after Chitra left.
Yeah,
Oh, God,
yeah,
I'm
I mean,
pretending that we're not even live anymore.
yeah. Nishtha Chaudhary says, which is the one book which you want a film or series to be made on? And is it a good idea to bring text to digital format in different format than text? I mean, basically just asking whether, what is the, is there anything that you think?
Remember A Case of Exploding Mangoes, Muhammad
Oh,
Hanif?
yeah, that's
yeah.
great.
That was did that ever become a
No,
movie
no.
that's such a brilliant book. And it's
Yeah.
funny, like you were talking about political
Really
satire.
funny, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's too controversial, I don't know, but it's a
Maybe
beautiful
it's too
book.
complex to be made into a, I don't know.
So by the way, guys, I'm doing this really fun thing where I'm actually writing a book specifically to be adapted into a movie.
Wow.
Because my work is very literary, right? I mean, for especially Bollywood. So just kind of, write it in almost a format of a screenplay. Because I'm finding now a lot of writers are not getting good advances. Their work is not. You've seen this, right? Like, in all seriousness, like Meena Kandasamy came out saying a
Yeah,
few weeks
she
ago
did,
that she got
she did, yeah.
what was it, 500 pounds? That's 40,000 rupees as an advance for her book, and she's one of our most foremost and powerful writers. And I was just shocked. And this is not even in India, where advances are typically very low. So I think the next best avenue, a lot of writers keep asking me this, is to write for a web series or a movie. So
I remember you giving me that advice long time, like about 3 months ago when we chatted, and you were like, Vivek.
I give you a very good idea for a book. Did you ever do that?
Yes, actually I did. And that's going to be the third book with HarperCollins.
Oh my God. I'm not going to reveal the premise, but listen, you have to thank me in acknowledgements, then Vivek.
Of course, I'm going to thank you.
We're having a long chat, Vivek and I,
Yes.
full conversation, which I hope nobody else ever hears. But we were discussing the premise of a new book that Vivek's working on. It was a lot of fun. I really like that.
Nice. So Meghna's. So Meghna, I will not settle at an acknowledgement. I would like 86% of Meghna Pants. I will get the lawyers of Chitra Banerjee.
No, but I think things should be made for web and for digital.
Yeah, it's a very different platform. Yeah.
And I'm always, no matter how much I may hate the adaptation, but I'm always very eager and enthusiastic to watch it on screen, to see how it plays out. I mean, like A Suitable Boy, right? I watched all 6 episodes and I quite enjoyed it. I think if somebody hasn't read the tome, it is absolutely fine to just watch those 6 episodes, get what you want from it, and say goodbye to it once and for all.
So even The Handmaid's Tale was Leela, right? In India.
No. Leela was Prayag Akbar's.
Oh, I thought there was the
No.
Indian version of
No.
The Handmaid's
Actually,
Tale.
Prayag wrote a book called Leela, which got adapted. And Handmaid's Tale is different, right? So, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Oh, because it was very different because I thought it was adapted to the Indian screen. I thought it was very interesting as well. Yeah.
But,
So I think, you have to write very specifically for your audience.
Yeah. Like Big Little Lies, everybody loved it.
Yes.
Everybody loved it. And I think it was just great that if you write well for, say, the screen or the digital streaming, or, you have a great screenplay at that, and if the writer is involved. Because I think what the writer was the executive producer as well on Big Little Lies.
Yeah.
So I think that really helps.
Yeah.
Like when Vikram Chandra, of course, was on the advisory committee of Sacred Games, the web
Yeah.
series. So I think,
Yeah.
never let them do it without the writer.
Yeah. But
By the
even
way,
yeah.
in the chats, let me know what literary bit of work that you'd like to see translated. It could also be for as lazy reasons like, "Hey, मैं पढ़ा नहीं है तो अच्छा रहेगा अगर film बन जाए."
Correct.
Like that. Sometimes I feel like that where I'm like, I see a book and I'm like, just make the movie. I don't have time for it. This is just this is just too much. By the way, Ajay Reddy has given a super chat where he says, "Hi Vivek, really enjoyed watching you on Anuya's show." So
Thank you,
there's
Ajay.
that.
Thank you very much.
And
Anuya is
Gaurav
my
Mohan.
fertility barometer, by the way. Every time I meet her, I find out 4 days later that I'm pregnant.
Oh God.
Now I'm scared to meet her because I've had 2 kids and I'm done. I'm like,
You think she has
literally every
powers or
single
what?
time. Yeah, I'm telling you, she has some superpower. Remember she came to interview both of us at home, and literally
Yeah,
4 days
books
later I
on
found I was
toast episode.
pregnant. Yeah,
Oh,
and
I
then I
remember
did
that.
a Game of Thrones episode with Rohan Joshi, her, and Ashish. And 4 days later I found out I was pregnant. So I don't know. I'm telling you, she has some superpowers or something, fertility superpowers.
She's
She's
just
like
So
the
I call her my
movie.
fertility barometer.
Wow.
she's like one of
She's.
those saints in Mahabharata. No? They do this and you get pregnant.
But then you shouldn't hang out with her because you don't want any more kids. So you should. Anytime
Yeah,
Anuya calls you for anything, like, "I'm sorry, I'm done. I don't want any
I'm
more
done. I
children."
can't have
She's
any
like,
more
"What?
kids.
What does this even mean?"
My uterus is weeping now. Save me from more kids.
Gaurav
My,
has given some super chat just saying just for the thought of bringing up Shobha on your stream. Yeah, it's a fun idea. I'll
Yeah,
actually read a couple of her books and then bring her
listen,
on.
please, because I have read
she's
all her
amazing.
books
Yeah.
except for Lockdown Liaison that I'm refused to read.
Why?
But no, yeah, Lockdown with a title like that, I'm not touching it.
I haven't read it yet.
Like
But
I rather go out and have my own liaison than to read a book called Lockdown Liaison.
but I'm surprised her stuff has not got translated because it's very kind of easy to adapt to screen.
Yeah,
No,
people
her
are
stories
scared
are very
because it's only sex.
that sells. Yeah,
Yeah, and that's amazing the way she writes it. I think as a woman writer in that
yeah,
time when she started writing in the 80s
exactly.
with such agency, it
Yeah,
was kick-ass.
it
For
was
me,
amazing.
like my father, poor father, he gifted me the first book that I asked him to gift me when I was of a certain age was Sisters by Shobha De. And
Huh.
he didn't realize what he was gifting because the man didn't read widely. But he gifted me Sisters, and I'm like happily at it while reading it. I'm like, her men were so perfect. I loved it. They were so ripped and this and that. And I was like, I want a South Mumbai's husband when I grow up.
Find you one, Vivek.
Please,
What
I'm
is
in
it like?
Kandivli. You better find me one so I can move to South Bombay.
What is that fix-up auntie on that show, that Indian matchmaking show?
My mother will give you such dirty looks, but it's okay. I want to be Geema auntie. I want to be
Seema auntie.
the gay matchmaker for the queer community.
Oh my God, we should do a show like that.
Netflix, are you listening?
Yeah,
Netflix.
Netflix, are you listening? A gay matchmaking show. That'd be amazing.
That's actually a great idea, by the way. This is
Yeah.
genuinely a really good idea.
Yeah, no, like
The gay
imagine.
matchmaking show. Yeah, it'll be fun also.
By the way, Sorabh, our combined parents were scandalized by my book, The Trouble with Women, because they said it's porno and they
Yeah.
refused to recommend it to their friends. So, Vivek, I mean, in this century, people are still getting scandalized by, like, I wrote about orgies and threesomes and all that. So,
We have a building library, and my mother refuses to give my book to the library. She's like, no, no, no. Why does everybody need to know? I'm like, everybody knows. I've written a book.
Why does everybody need to know is a great response. It's like, what if they know? What will happen? He's gay, did you know?
Maybe I'll start having more sex, mom.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's what she's trying to prevent basically. She's like, yeah, I don't enough, you're having enough, beta, relax
no
now.
lockdown license for you, Vivek.
Only Shobha can get it, and only Shobha can write about it.
By the way, again, Vyas has given SEK 50, which means it's Chronos. Thank you again. Great work, SP Love from Sweden at 7:30 in the morning. what do the authors think of Wheel of Time series? There are 14 books in the series. Have you have
I
either?
managed to read 4 of them and then I stopped. I'm like, nahi hoga abhi.
That's literally the same number I've read.
I
I read
can't.
4.
I can't
Yeah.
do it.
And Meghna will
Because
love the genre because it's fantasy fiction, so it's
I
right up.
literally have you're speaking like Martian to me right now. Yeah.
So, but you know what I did with Wheel of Time? So I read the first three, with the Robert Jordan. If you don't know, it's a Robert Jordan 14
yeah,
series book, and it's actually quite good fun. But I read the first three as like reading them, and then I started reading the audiobook version. And it was really confusing. I spent a couple of days when I was in Saharanpur. I think this was around the time I got married, and the story was just not making any sense. I'm listening to it on audio. I'm like, this, what the fuck is happening? It's like suddenly he's here, and then I realized I'd put it on shuffle. So I was reading chapter two
Oh
and
my
then chapter
God.
19, and then back to chapter one. I was like, this is really complicated, like linear, a non-linear narrative of Wheel of Time. But yeah, what did you think of Wheel of Time?
no, I didn't think much of it. Honestly, I was like, 4th book and that's it. There are better things to read. I'm sorry if you loved it, Ved or Vyas. I don't know who asked,
Again,
but
Vyas, yeah.
yeah, but I'm really sorry. But I didn't like it.
Meghna's not even attempted to read it. So
So I'm googling to see what it is. It's high fantasy novels by James Oliver. Okay.
This first of all, I don't understand why people who write fantasy think it's their need and desire to make everything so complex in their books. I'm like, it can be
Yeah,
a
I can't
simple
read fantasy.
fantasy tale. No, why do you have to? Like, I just cannot. Like, I watched American Gods. I'll never read it.
oh, the book is damn good fun.
I know, yeah, but I'm
Yeah.
scared of reading fantasy. Honestly, I'm really legit scared of reading fantasy.
So Saurabh and my taste in books is completely like diametrically opposite. It's unbelievable. Like I just if he reads a book, that means there's no chance that I'll read it.
No, Sorabh loves fantasy. I know
He
that.
loves fantasy,
I
yeah.
know
I
that.
love and sci-fi. If anyone wants to start reading one sci-fi, I would recommend starting with the Robot series of Isaac Asimov, because it's essentially like a murder mystery thriller with sci-fi as the backdrop. So it's really a quick, fun read, and I really enjoyed. There's like 4 books which are really good fun. So if you want an introduction to sci-fi, I usually say that that's fun. And dude, okay, here's the question. Okay, which is the literary fiction book that you were just entertained by? Like I read Crime and Punishment, and I'm like, this is so much fun, dude. What a fun book. I mean, in the sense, like, not like, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I
dark
know. I
and
know.
it's
Yeah.
terrible, but I'm like, this is a fun read for my mind. Like it's not like what do you expect a book which is sort of classified as literary fiction to be, which
Yeah.
is entertaining and fast paced.
Megha, you want to?
No, I'm just thinking of only serious books right now that are coming to my mind. For some vague reason, I thought of Blind Man's Garden, which is one of the most intense
Oh
books
my
I've ever
God, it's
read.
very,
Yeah.
very
I don't
intense.
know why I suddenly thought of that. So I think I love Pakistani authors like Nadeem Aslam or Muhammad Anif. I just feel like they're so brilliant. They're writing such good work. And honestly, I'm reading a lot of translated works from India. Like I think I mentioned them to Chitra also earlier. uh, your Murugan or K.R. Miras, they write such beautiful books. And I feel like I want more of India to read that, I feel like they've been in the minority, they've been, on the fringes and they need to become more mainstream. And because they're good books, the Adivasi Will Not Dance, for example,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's one of the best short story collections I've ever read.
But he's
So
very intense, Hansda. I think,
yeah,
I think
but
for
I
me,
love that.
one literary book that I found a lot of fun. I think mainly because of the language was Midnight's Children when I first read it.
Yeah, it is
I
fun.
had a lot of fun reading it. I know a lot of people have stopped reading it after the. So there's a 50-page Salman Rushdie rule, right? You pick up any of his books, and if you can't get past the 50th page, you
Yeah,
drop.
you are not going to finish it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what people do. But
Yeah.
but I absolutely enjoyed reading it. Had a great time. Satanic Verses, on the other hand, 10 pages in, and I dropped it. I was like,
Oh.
no, I can't read it.
But Salman Rushdie looks like he's enjoying writing, like he's
Only
having
for himself.
fun.
Only
Yeah,
for himself.
only for himself.
Not
Yeah.
for the readers.
I read I did that with Fury, which I thought was fun because it's about this guy who I don't know something about I don't even remember. I vaguely
I
remember
think it has a
that
9/11 connection, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, is it? Yeah, all right, yeah, right, yeah. But I read 100 pages, and I'm like, because I always like books which is about a man living a normal life who's really furious inside because it resonates
No.
with me quite nicely. And then I read about 100 pages and I was like, I don't know where it went. It just went to a weird place. And I felt the same way about Grimus.
Yeah.
With
Yeah,
Grimus, I was just like,
yeah.
what is happening, dude? I don't know where you've gone. It started off so normal and then suddenly it's like whatever. And by the way, the next super chat is literally what we just discussed. Nikhil Limaye says, I was really excited when I found out that Midnight's Children was made into a movie, but I was really disappointed with it.
Oh,
Have you
yeah.
seen the movie?
Oh, the movie is. I walked out in the interval. I had gone with a guy that I really liked, and I told him, "Come, we'll go and watch Midnight Children." He also left after the interval, and even I left the movie as well, so that didn't go too far. Thank you, Salman Rushdie. Thank you, not Salman Rushdie. Thank you, Deepa Mehta, for making that terrible film.
Like, I was gonna ask, tell Chitra also, Mistress of Spices was such a
Was such a
beautiful
bad
book, but such a
movie.
bad movie. What
Such a
was
bad
going on in that movie? It was
That Aishwarya Rai in it, I was like, what is going on? Fellas, तो तुझे acting आती नहीं है, and then you want to kill Mistress of Spices also for us.
That was, I think, one of a book really like gone wrong on screen, unfortunately.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, Midnight's Children had Darshil Safari in it, dude.
Yes.
Wow.
That was also not a very good movie.
Yeah, and Salman Rushdie was the narrator in the film,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
it had a lot of people. It had Seema Biswas,
Yeah.
Rahul Bose, a lot of good actors, but the movie, oh god.
One of Rahul Bose's best performances was that show, was the movie Bulbul. Did you watch it recently?
I did.
Beautifully, artistically shot. It's really, really liked it. I think a lot of female directors are writing very interesting stories
Yeah.
nowadays. Suddenly, I'm seeing like over the last, since Queen, I think, suddenly there's a huge focus on female protagonists in different life situations.
But I think
And some of
also,
them are very good.
Doordarshan, for when it, way back then in the 90s when we were growing up and all of that, I was always mesmerized by Shanti and Swabhiman and
Yes.
shows where women were on the forefront and doing things the way they wanted to do them.
Yeah. What was Neena Gupta's that very beautiful show
Yeah,
about
Sans.
extramarital affairs?
Sans.
Sans. That was a beautiful,
Loved
beautiful
it.
show. Yeah.
And today I see all these regressive rasode mein kaun tha shit. And I'm like, dude, really now?
Or even comedies like Dekh Bhai Dekh. Like I miss that. Like
really?
we grew up watching that. Or
Yeah.
Zamana Badal Gaya Hai.
Exactly. Or Zaban Sambhal Ke also.
Zaban Sambhal Ke. Oh my God, that was epic. Yeah.
Just want to mention, everybody watching, please like the stream if you can. I also enjoy the fact that so every time you're talking about something here and you think, hey, the comments will be related to something here, it's never. The conversation happening in the chats is about, hey, where can you read anime and manga online? That is the conversation that is happening.
Buy कर लो. Sorry.
अरे पर बहुत महंगा होता है यार.
हाँ, बहुत महंगा होता है, तो थोड़ा save करके buy कर लो. Like people always have money to spend on food and alcohol. Books पे ही आके problem हो जाती है लोगों को buy करने.
That's true.
I keep telling people कि Starbucks की कॉफी के लिए आप 300-400 spend कर रहे हो, तो यार किताब खरीद लो 200-300 की. You'll much better returns for sure.
People are talking about One Piece. Oh, so and people are giving free websites also. This is where you can read free One Piece for free. Akhil Pisharodi, indulging in illegalities in my chats. I will have you exterminated.
Get your lawyer from
Please
USA.
don't read PDFs of books. Yeah, that's just.
Nature, Meghna, it's okay. You know what? I saw that on some random website. They had a pirated, not pirated, but EPUB or movie version of my book, and I was actually a little happy. I was
like I've arrived.
I'm like, I have arrived. I wanted to screenshot it and save it for future reference.
But you know, a lot of these pirated copies that you get in traffic signals are the authors give the copies to the bachas to sell. Yeah. I know a lot of, I've uncovered a lot of...
I remember you telling me this the last time we spoke, and you mentioned some authors also who do that.
Yeah.
I've uncovered a lot of the jhol that is going on in publishing nowadays after writing How to Get Published, which is quite entertaining, which I should obviously not reveal here. Sorab's eyebrows have reached like, you're the one who keeps telling me to not be controversial and to keep quiet. Sorab is always like, don't say this, don't do that, deletes this tweet immediately.
And because Sorab has faced it a lot.
Yeah, but I'm very thick-skinned with trolls. Like, they really don't affect me, but I think he's a little more sensitive. For some reason, I'm just very thick-skinned because I'm just like, okay, Like, if you give me a proper argument, I will listen. But if you're just attacking me with like stereotypes, I'm just
But
disengaged.
books on traffic signals, right? Love the concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it only happens in our country. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I think it must be happening in other places in the
Yeah?
subcontinent, no?
Maybe Pakistan, Sri Lanka,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know. Yeah?
Sri
Fun.
Lanka, I think they're too like, they follow the rules and all a little bit.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's a very Indian phenomenon to sell books at the traffic signal. It's
I love that concept. I think as long as people are reading, I don't know, maybe in college, I might have also picked one or two from the traffic signal. Yeah, I think I remember. Or maybe, outside Churchgate station, there used to be these people who used to sell these books
Yeah.
at one point. But yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the good old days, the good old days.
Just want to mention Ashutosh Notial. Welcome to level 2 of membership, my friend. I will announce the members only live chat. Members only live probably either this Friday or next Friday. I'm not sure when. I'm going to try and get somebody who's featured a lot on this show or something like that. So we'll figure that out.
This is very impressive. We have a members only and all. It's like,
it's exclusive for members. They get access to the badminton court, and it's just an exclusive members only club. I'm actually I keep every few days I'll go and see how many members I added, and the first few days there's a lot, and now it's like once every one day or something, which is not bad. I'm very happy. Kuchbi Mehta, who's Akash Mehta, says, I once gave a ride to a kid selling books at Haji Ali till like Wali Seaface. Kid managed to sell me 2 books in the process.
Lovely. Wow.
Well done.
Very enterprising kid. Very nice.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's about it. If anybody has any more questions, this is the last thing. But please let's plug what is happening. Meghna, what is up? What would you like to plug? Tell us what is happening in your life, Meghna. Please tell us.
I haven't slept since 8 months. Last night I really didn't sleep. My 8-month-old babies decided to torture me during the lockdown. But otherwise, all good. My magnum opus that I spoke about, the book is.
You know what? You can't call your own book a magnum opus. You can't just keep
of
saying
course,
this.
it's my magnum opus, as in my mind. It's the biggest book I've ever written.
No, but you know what? Actually, I had the same thought in my head when you said it the first time in front of Chitra.
Yeah?
You said magnum opus, and I was like, this Meghna Pant is very, very like.
Listen, I'm a Leo. Like, I just.
Yeah, you can just say, hey, I'm working on this magnum opus, this.
No, but I know my work, right? I know what's good and not. I'm quite objective that way, and I can be very critical of my own work. But this is, I think, my best book to come out. Stop laughing, guys.
I'm just waiting for you to say magnum opus again.
But listen, I'm completely.
For your own work.
But before, just going a little off track, I'm literally with Sorabh on the topic of the Fountainhead and Ayn Rand. So I just want to say that now that we are there on this chat, that's
People must be sick of us by now. We're speaking for like almost 2 hours.
I think
we go on for 2 hours. Vivek has seen the show, Meghna. He knows. He's aware.
I know. I'm aware.
So Meghna wants to plug Sleep mainly. You can also buy Meghna's books, How to Get Published in India, 1.5 Wife, and Happy Birthday, which is a collection of short stories.
And a magnum opus.
To be published shortly. But Chitra, by the way, gave a beautiful glowing review to Happy Birthday. And I remember I just started off, and I just approached her randomly and she wrote such beautiful, gave me a beautiful blurb for the book. So I've always been enchanted by that.
I was your first reviewer in India.
You were my first reviewer. Oh my God. I was in Tender Hooks. I was like, 1.5 Wife came out. And I remember I just moved. I don't know how I saw it. Saurabh told me about it. And I read the review and I'm like, oh my God, I want to marry Vivek.
Oh.
Little knowing.
Meghna,
no, that was a beautiful
not slept because you just said tender hooks. It's tender hooks.
I'm very tired. And you've been making me sleep for 2 hours.
Tender hook. It's like, let's hold her up with this tender hook.
That's what I feel like.
Don't do that.
By the way, Saurabh is like the worst brother ever, Vivek.
That's true.
I think this is like the kind of best brother to have.
No.
Just show the mirror to you.
Listen, he's dumped his kids on me and then he expects me to be like fresh.
You're not even
and talk
taking
for
care of
2
my kids.
hours.
First of all, let's just establish
Meghna, get over it. That's all I have to say. This is the 4th
Vivek,
time
I'm
you
going
said
to make you babysit 4 small children under 5, okay, and watch if you don't pull out your hair.
But you said this like the 4th, 5th time. I'm like, get over it, boring ho gaya.
Okay, so go buy Meghna's books and follow her on Twitter and Instagram and all the rest. Vivek, what's happening? Please tell us.
Well, I'm going to plug in a quiz show that I'm going to be a panelist for on the 4th of October. It's called India Wants to Know Quiz, the Great India Quiz. So please go check it out.
Who's hosting it?
This bunch of guys who do these quizzes once a month called India Wants to Know.
Okay.
And they're really great. They're really good. So,
awesome.
yeah.
So go check out India Wants to Know and Meghna's all books. And Vivek also you can check out Vivek's memoir. Sorry, I've forgotten the name of your memoir. What is it?
So now you know.
So now you know. And then that's what I knew it had no in the title. I knew it had some. Yeah. So I got confused. So now
Sorabh, tell me what you liked about the book. On what page?
I loved paragraph 6 on page 27 where you said, and then she was gone. It really resonated with me.
He was gone.
He was gone. So
I don't have women in my book all that much.
You sexist.
By the way, Vivek unfriended me on Facebook and
I didn't.
On Facebook.
No.
If I was a hot guy,
This is the time to
it would have never happened.
This is the time to not wash our dirty linen. I think we would say goodbye.
On that note.
Okay, on Saturday I'm doing an AMA where you can ask me whatever questions you want. It's going to be me alone. Maybe I'll have a couple of my friends pop in also as surprises. So that's happening on Saturday. Sunday is a break. Then Tuesday we have the IPL show, which is going to be us discussing the IPL with 3 hardcore IPL fans, Sonali Thakkar, Siddharth Dideja, and Akash Mehta, who's in the chat. Akash, it's confirmed. This is how I confirmed to you, Akash Mehta, that we're doing this on Tuesday. Thursday, I don't know what's happening.
Is Akash Mehta the comedian?
Yes, sir.
I quite like what he does. So hi, Akash. Hello. I saw him first on Kumar Varun's quiz. So yeah.
Yeah,
hello.
He's a sweet boy. And he's working on music and all also. Next Saturday is going to be JB Koe and Achara, I think. So that'll be fun. Superb, guys. Thank you so much, Meghna Pant. Thank you so much, Vivek Tejuja.
Thank you, Sorabh. Thank you, Meghna Pant.
Chitra Banerjee.
Thanks, Vivek. Thanks, Sorabh.
Karuni.
Chitra Banerjee, Deva Karuni. This is blasphemous.
By
the way, Sorabh, before we end, I want to ask you, who's your most favorite guest so far after 67 episodes? Put him on the spot. Since he's been taking my cases.
No favorite guest, but it's the episodes I've rewatched. I mean, there's a lot of them that I've rewatched, which is fun. I
rewatch your own shows.
Yeah, because like when I'm hosting, you're not entirely there. I'm trying to figure out super chat. I'm going through that. Then I'm making sure that if somebody wants to leave early, you have to check up that. Then you have to make sure that it's just like 10,000 things in your head. And also while somebody's talking, you're like, okay, this person's not talking, so I should get this person. So there's just like 50,000 things in your head. So I tend to rewatch at least 10 minutes of every episode to see how it was and whether it was okay. So I watched a couple of them back. One was with Amit Tandon and Neeti Palta and Gursimran Khamba, which is about them performing on Doordarshan for New Year's Eve, which was hilarious. It's just one of the dumbest stories I've ever heard. So I watched that and a bunch of others. I like the cricket ones also. So no specific ones really, but I've enjoyed a lot. The Ramchandra Guha, Veer Sanghvi, and the one with Lieutenant General Zamiruddin Shah was also very interesting. I would suggest please go watch that. It's he spoke quite candidly about being in the armed forces, and he spoke about AFSPA and about the 1971 war. So that was quite an interesting conversation. So yeah. Anyway.
I love the one with Manu Pillai also. Very nice.
Oh, Manu Pillai was great, dude. Yeah. Manu Pillai was
very
great.
nice.
Yeah. Even the Dalrymple one was quite fun.
Yeah. I was just going to say that.
Yeah. So I have no favorites. Everybody's my favorite. Meghna, this is my favorite episode.
Thank you, Sorabh. I was waiting for that.
That's what we wanted to hear. I have provided it to you. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Thanks a lot for everybody tuning in.
in.
See you later. I'm going to end this